Slovak authorities confirmed that Prime Minister Robert Fico is out of danger after being shot several times during a meeting of the Council of Ministers in the city of Handlova. In Palestine, citizens rally in Ramallah to mark the 76th anniversary of the Nakba. And in Brazil, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva announced new assistance measures to address the effects of heavy rains and floods in the state of Rio Grande do Sul. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Slovak authorities confirmed that Prime Minister Robert Fico is out of danger after being shot several times during a meeting of the Council of Ministers in the city of Handlova. The Slovak Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Environment, Tomáš Taraba, said that Fico's condition is stable after undergoing surgery for more than 3 hours after being shot in the abdomen and thorax. According to local authorities, the perpetrator of the shooting is a 71-year-old man who was arrested by the police outside the House of Culture in Handlova. Meanwhile, the authorities called on the people to remain calm and not to spread disinformation about the attack on the premier. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel also condemns assassination attempt on Slovak Prime Minister. Through his account in X, the president expressed, Cuba condemns in the strongest terms the attack on the physical integrity of the Prime Minister of the Slovak Republic, Robert Fico. I convey on behalf of the Cuban people and government our solidarity and wishes for a speedy recovery. Robert Fico, Prime Minister of Slovakia, began his political career in the Communist Party shortly before the Velvet Revolution of 1989, which led to the breakup of the former Czechoslovakia. In 1999, he founded his center-left Smer SD party after being rejected for a ministerial post by the Democratic Left. Fico stated that Russian President Vladimir Putin would not be arrested by international order if he came to Slovakia. His career over the past 3 decades has been marked by a nationalist and anti-Western vision. WikiLeaks editor-in-chief Christine Krasvan has denounced the legal process surrounding the extradition of journalist Julian Assange from the United Kingdom to the United States as a corrupt and rigged. The businessman's statements were made in the framework of a hearing to be held next week to discuss the case and evaluate the granting of a new appeal to the journalist. It should be noted that the London High Court asked the United States government for assurances on the treatment Assange would receive if extradited to Washington. Julian Assange has been facing charges since 2010 for the disclosure of acts of corruption and war crimes committed against Afghanistan and Iraq by the United States.
But I've come to the opinion that that is absolutely the case. This is institutional corruption on a judicial level. Julian Assange is a political prisoner. It's abundantly clear. And I hope that you can look into the case, in the details of the case, where the evidence is basically screaming at you.
Likewise, the wife of journalist Julian Assange, Stella Assange, made a statement regarding the situation faced by the journalist.
And I think it's important to understand that he's under huge pressure and he has enormous forces bearing down on him, and he is resisting those day to day. You know, so he's surviving and he's fighting to survive, and that's a daily battle.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. All the stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. Palestinians rally in Ramallah to mark the 76th anniversary of the Nakba or catastrophe. During the 1948 war that followed Israel's creation, around 760,000 Palestinians were driven from their homes, and many took refuge in what would later become the Gaza Strip on the West Bank. Sirens have gone off throughout the Palestinian cities for 76 seconds, marking the 76 years that have passed since the 1948 catastrophe. As the sirens went off in Ramallah, everyone fell silent and raised two fingers in the air as a sign of victory and demand of peace. While Palestinians mark 76 years since the Nakba in Gaza, over 500,000 Palestinians have been forcibly displaced in recent days amid intense Israeli attacks across the Strip. According to the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, some 450,000 Palestinians have been expelled from Rafah in the last week, following a ground operation by Israeli forces, widely criticized by the international community. Meanwhile, in the north, another 100,000 people were displaced as Israeli tanks have pushed into densely populated neighborhoods in Jabalia and met with fierce resistance.
We've gone through the Nakba not just once, we've been displaced several times, the Palestinian exile, we've experienced it not just once, but several times. In 2014, we were displaced. In 2008 we were displaced. In 2020 we were displaced. I was also a child in 1967 and the circumstances were very difficult.
Following 3 years of suspension, on Wednesday, Syrian refugees set off their return from Lebanon to their native land. The first phase of this comeback is made up of 300 families from the Arsal camps who are returning to their homes in the Qalimon territories and some of the outskirts of Damascus. The returnees expressed their joy at coming back to their homeland while thanking the Lebanese state for sheltering them for almost 15 years. In that regard, the Ministry of Interior and Municipalities, in collaboration with the House of Lebanon to the World Foundation, set a roadmap to regulate the legal status of the refugees and the return process. In Lebanon, Hezbollah and Hamas leaders held a high-level meeting to discuss the developments of Operation Al-Aqsa Flood and the massacres committed by Israel against civilians in Gaza. Hezbollah and Hamas delegates reaffirmed their commitment and unity to confront the Israeli occupation in the Palestinian territory. Both sides discussed the current developments in the Gaza Strip and occupied Palestine and the various support fronts, as well as the course of the recent negotiations with the Tel Aviv forces. They also discussed the international political position on Palestine and the recent student movement in various countries around the world, in solidarity with the people in Gaza. The parties stressed the cooperation and solidarity between their movements and thanked the support of the countries towards the injured citizens and the sending of humanitarian aid. Venezuelans held an act of solidarity to commemorate the 76th anniversary of the Palestinian Nakba. The act took place in the city of Caracas, capital of the country. It was attended by Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, the Secretary of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our Americas People's Trade Agreement, ALBA-TCP, Jorge Arreaza, and the Palestinian Diplomatic Corps accredited in the country. During his speech, Arreaza recalled that the illegal occupation suffered by the Palestinians and expressed his respect and solidarity with these people. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in the capital of China, Beijing, on his first foreign visit after his re-election and swearing in as President of Russia. The Russian president travels to China on a state visit in accordance with diplomatic protocol. The presidential assistant for foreign policy, Yuri Ushakov, stated that China was not chosen randomly for the president's first foreign trip, but in response to a similar gesture of friendship by Chinese President Xi Jinping last year. The visit will last 2 days, during which Putin will meet his Chinese counterpart. Then, on the 16th and 17th, he will travel to Harbin for his participation in the opening ceremony of the 8th Russian-China Expo and the 4th Russia-China Forum for Interregional Cooperation. you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Find a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The U.S. State Department announced on Wednesday that Cuba is not included in its 2023 report on countries that do not cooperate in the fight against terrorism. However, it does not remove the Caribbean nation from the list of countries sponsoring terrorism. The document says that the State Department has determined that the circumstances for certifying Cuba as a country that does not fully cooperate with anti-terrorism efforts have changed from 2022 to 2023, and therefore the agency does not designate it as such in calendar year 2023. Nevertheless, the agency also argues that its report is not sufficient to remove Cuba from the list of countries sponsoring terrorism, arguing that such designation is subjected to laws and criteria established by Congress. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel denounced on Wednesday that since the inclusion of the Caribbean nation in the U.S. list of countries that allegedly support terrorism, the blockade has intensified. The statement was made during an interview with a Spanish journalist, Ignacio Ramonet.
Today, the blockade has a qualitative different characteristic. Today we're talking about a tightened blockade, which has additionally been reinforced by another factor, which is the inclusion of Cuba in a spurious list determined at will by the United States government of countries that supposedly sponsor terrorism.
In another part of the interview, the Cuban president stressed that the Cuban people have developed a capacity to resist the U.S. blockade that has allowed it to move on as a nation.
Cuba has never stood idly by. We have developed a capacity for resistance. I would even say, after the experiences we had with COVID-19, that it's a creative resistance, because the country has not only been able to resist the onslaught of the blockade, but in these conditions, it has moved on, it has contributed, it has grown as a nation, and it has also developed. In other words, it is not just resisting and not doing anything else. On the other hand, the Cuban head of state warned that due to the tightening of the illegal U.S. blockade against the country, inflation is on the rise and the internal trade is deteriorating. We cannot develop the economic activity with all the intensity and capabilities that we have and that we need to offer goods and services. A huge imbalance is created between supply and demand, and therefore prices increase and then inflation appears in a very large scale. On the other hand, we don't have the hard currency that we need to efficiently operate a legal state exchange market. And so an illegal market is created. This is a parallel market that manipulates the exchange rate and help impose prices and contribute to the inflation problem. In Venezuela, the pre-election campaign advances, and Nicolás Maduro asserts that he is not a weak president, nor is he a president who has surrendered to the interests of the United States. The report with Madeleine Garcia.
The state of Yaracuy in the center-west of the country. To the sounds of slogans, as "the people are with you," the current of the president advanced in what seems to be a popular party. Those on the other side ran to meet him. In the middle of the crowd, a young man with a bugle was accompanying the parade. The election campaign has not even begun, and these images already show how the race for the presidential elections on July 28th will be. There were 2 points where the people came out to welcome him. Any place was a good place to connect with the president, who inaugurated several works.
I am not a weak, manipulable president. You want to have a weak, manipulable president. Without energy, without strength, cowardly. You want to have a president dragged to the gringos, or you want to have a tough president. If you want to have a tough president, come here so we can open the key.
He advanced to the aqueduct that was built with the participation of the 48 communities of Cocorote and symbolizes the triumph over the illegal U.S. sanctions requested by the radical opposition. The visit continued to another point, the town's Bolivar Square. They were waiting for him to support the same cause.
Of course there are problems with them because we do not bow down to them. We are a free and sovereign people, and because we are independent, and that is why there are sanctions, and that is why there are problems, but that is not going to stop us.
On July 28, they will defend peace. President Maduro joined the drumbeat of the Venezuela in resistance.
Madeline García, teleSUR, Yaracuy, Venezuela.
On Wednesday in Brazil, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva announced new assistance measures to address the effects of the heavy rains and floods in the state of Rio Grande do Sul. During a visit to the shelters, the president informed all the victims that the government will rebuild the houses lost due to the severe weather conditions that affected 100% of the population. Lula also indicated that those affected will receive a subsidy of $1,000 for material losses. In this sense, the government estimated that 200,000 families will benefit from the new measures. On the other hand, people who became unemployed will have access to 2 additional unemployment insurance payments, and income tax will be exceptionally reinstated for all taxpayers in the affected state. Meanwhile, Brazilian authorities have raised the death toll to 148. According to the latest civil defense bulletin published, the biggest climatic tragedy in the history of the southern region of Brazil has also left 124 people missing and 806 injured. 540,000 people have been displaced from their homes, and more than 440 municipalities have been affected by the disaster. As part of the work carried out, the Brazilian government set up a field hospital in which around 20,000 professionals from the region are working. In addition, more than 81,000 people have been accommodated in shelters. In the United States, thousands of people were affected as tornadoes hit the state of Louisiana. Authorities report that a tornado led to a fatal victim nearby the town of Henderson. The U.S. National Weather Service indicated that the disaster follows one of the most active periods of tornadoes in the country's history, confirming an estimated of 267 occurrences since April 25th. Meanwhile, local media and citizens posted several videos on social media showing the damage caused by the incident, including smashed structures and downed trees and grids. In eastern Indonesia, the Mount Ibu volcano erupted for the second time this week, spewing a column of smoke and ash of some 5,000 meters into the sky. The Indonesian Center for Volcanology and Geological Hazard Mitigation reported that the volcano located on the island of Halmahera erupted on Monday afternoon, following a small occurrence over the weekend. The country, located along the Ring of Fire, a series of seismic fault lines around the Pacific Ocean, has 100 120 active volcanoes. In this instance, while no damage or casualties were reported, authorities recommended the population to avoid the area, with the Institute also encouraging the use of masks and goggles for people going outdoors in locations close to the Ipu. Tuesday, a tribute to artist César Renfijo was held by the National Theatre Movement that bears his name on a new birth anniversary of this Venezuelan playwright and painter who is remembered for his social legacy. Santiago Corey provides for the details.
The César Renfijo Children and Youth Theatre Movement performed a musical on the 109th birth anniversary of this defender of cultural identity.
We are very happy with page homage to César Renfijo with this show, comprising national and artist elements. You've been able to see all this day that we celebrate the great mission Long Live Venezuela. The artists choose this selection, and it is a sample of national art. And because we will continue dreaming together with César, we will continue fighting for our beloved homeland.
The movement, directed by Pedro Lander, promotes the participation and training of children and young people in the performing arts to raise awareness and sensitivity of all Venezuelans about national art.
It really means a lot. It's like you enter another world. It's an unexplainable experience, and the people who are there at that moment, living it, feel it.
By performing different rhythms, they stage the distinctive sound of the different states of the country.
Well, it's my turn to represent the Tamunangue of the Lara state. The Tamunangue is a black area. You can call it like that. It's a tradition, like a ritual of promise for Thanksgiving, for believers. And men wear white shirt, a red scarf, a hat of cogollo, they wear baggy trousers, and women just wear floral skirts and white or other colored shirts. I'll tell you should come and see it, because it's a superb, cool play that we put a lot of strength into it. We gave it a lot of emotion, joy, and we make our best efforts.
Dozens of people recall the birth of the figure who made his work an instrument to make visible the feelings and struggle of the people for a fairer and more united world.
Desde la Cámara de Jesús Romero, Santiago Corey, teleSUR, Caracas.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.